y'all. I had a couple of viewers had questions about some things on this Viking Husqvarna #1, and I'm just going to share with you what I have learned in the 8 months or so that I've had it, and I'm sure there are more experienced seamstresses out there. Even Margie, the one that gave me the machine, can probably answer some questions better than I can. And I do apologize for the lighting. I've moved my sewing stuff into my living room, and this probably was a bad idea because it's not very well lit in here. But hopefully you can see it enough to understand what I'm talking about. The one question I had, I can't remember the person's name. She asked about the tension, and this, I've never had a machine like this before. I've always had the little $99 Singers and didn't have a whole lot of features on it. But the nice thing with this machine that I've found since I've been using it is all the different ways to control the tension, the even the weight of the fabric, the weight of the presser foot is over here, and you know, a lot of good features on this machine, and I really like sewing with it. It has speed control, which I really love because, you know, that's helpful. So anyway, the first thing about the tension, I usually, with normal cotton fabrics, there's just a couple of layers. I usually have the tension somewhere between 6 and 5. And when I'm sewing something that I'm going to close up, if that makes sense, it wouldn't be like a top stitch or anything like that. Like if I'm making a purse or these bows that I've been working on, I will use 2.5 length stitch. And I don't really mess with this right here. I think that's the width or something to do with that. I'm not sure. I have the book. I should have gotten it out and put it in front of me to do this video, but I didn't. So we're going to keep going where we are. And the presser foot, I usually have that between right around about 4, I think is where I have that. I'm going to zoom in and I'll show you that. This little knob over here on the left side of the machine is for the pressure of the presser foot, and I think the higher the number, the more pressure you've got on this presser foot. The lower the number, the looser the foot, which is, I think the looseness of that foot, if you're sewing like a stretch knit, I think looser might be better for the presser foot so that it doesn't pull the fabric and cause it to bunch up. And with the tension, how would I put this? You want it looser for a thicker fabric. If you're sewing through a lot of layers or denim or something like that, you want it to be a little looser. If you're sewing through, or maybe it's the other way around in here. This is broadcloth, this piece that I'm going to use to show you in a second of some things about the tension. Broadcloth is really thin, really lightweight cotton fabric, and it tends to, if I have the tension too tight, it will bunch up. It'll start to kind of gather. So you want to loosen it up a little bit if it's thinner fabric. And I can't really describe how you can tell, but you can feel the difference in the fabric, and sometimes maybe it's a little more transparent. I don't know if you can see that, but you can see through this fabric a little better than some of the other fabrics that I have. Normally when I'm just sewing everyday stuff, I have it on light fabric. If it's thick layers, I'll change it up. And this one has woven and stretch and leather and vinyl, so it's really good for any kind of fabric. I don't know how to put it. But I haven't played around a lot with this stuff right here, which is seam overcast and seam overcast based blind hem, buttonhole, button. I have done the buttonhole feature, but I don't think I even used these. It probably would have been helpful if I had. So let's see what else I can tell you. This little button right here drops the feed dogs, and I think that's for if you're embroidering or something, and I haven't used that feature. But I've got light colored thread in here and dark fabric so that you can see, and I'm going to switch the camera around so that you can see what I'm doing. And what I'm going to do is play around with the tension a little bit and show you what can happen if the tension isn't right, or if it's just right, or if you've got thick fabric. So before I do that, another thing I want to say is if you're having trouble with the bottom thread, you always want to go in and check your bobbin and make sure that you have this bobbin loaded right. And this machine is really easy too, because the bobbin is concave and, is that convex? What's the word for that? It's kind of domed on one side and it scoops in on the other side, and you want the raised part to be at the top when you put it in the bobbin. I don't think it would even fit the other way. And you want to make sure that you feed the thread through this little groove and into this. And when you load your bobbin with this machine, you pinch this little thing right here and you load your bobbin in there, and that little knob that's there goes up, and there's a thread cutter right here. But you also, I found if I don't catch it in here, bobbin makes a mess, so I guess it is necessary. But you want to catch it in that thing and not let it come out. And I just clip it a little bit and leave about 1.5 inches and shut the door of the bobbin casing. And I have a pretty standard foot on here right now. I was using my walking foot a lot, but I was doing another project and I just hadn't put it back on. But I do love that walking foot. Margie was so right, because when she sent it to me, it had the walking foot on it. And I have a collection of walking feet that I have from old sewing machines I've had in the past that I never used because I just didn't think they were necessary. But they are absolutely, the walking foot is awesome for stretch fabrics and fabrics that are difficult to sew normally, that wouldn't feed through as well. So yeah, if you have a walking foot, definitely use that if you have some problems with the tension and all that stuff too, because it could be the fabric's just not feeding through good, but that walking foot sure does help it. Okay, so I just have my fabric folded over in 2 layers to start with. I have the tension set almost on 5, not quite, but it's almost there. I have it on woven light fabric. I have the stitch length on 2.5. I have the presser foot on number 4, and we're just going to sew a little bit and see what happens. Okay, pretty good, but you can see some bunch in there. See how it's wanting to bunch up a little bit, the fabric is. So now let's change it a little bit and see what happens. So I'm going to turn the tension down to about 4. It's almost on 4, not quite. It's closer to the 5 side, but it's closer to 4. It's between 4 and 5, but it's closer to 4. Okay. I'm going to turn the stitch length up to 3. I'm going to loosen the presser foot just a little bit. I'm just going a little past the 4. It's a little better. Now let's see what happens if we got everything all wonky and all wrong. So I think I haven't really played a lot with that pressure foot, but I'm about to find out. I turned it down to about 2. That may be more pressure instead of less. I might have told you wrong. And I'm going to turn the tension up to about 8. Okay, so that's a really tight stitch, and it's not bad. It's still bunching a little. Now let's go the other way with the presser foot. I'm going to turn it up all the way to 9. I need to fold my fabric some more. I was trying to show you, apparently this machine just can't sew bad, y'all. I'm going to turn that stitch length up to 4. Going to turn the tension to number 2. That is actually better. See, it's really smooth, but you can see the back. Something's not right because this stitch looks really kind of wonky a little bit in the back. So let's go back to between 6 and 5 for the tension, and back down to about between 4 and 6. There's no number 5 on the presser foot. And I'm going to turn my stitch length down to about 3. That's a little bit of a tight stitch because it wants to bunch up, so we need to loosen it a little bit in the tension. And I'm going to loosen it to about between 3 and 4. That's much better. It's laying a little flatter. It's hard to tell because I'm sewing on the same piece of fabric. Now let's see if I can fold up this fabric and make it kind of thick, and see what happens with it set. The same settings. It's between 3 and 4 on the tension, and it's between 4 and 6 on the presser foot. And it's on lightweight fabric. That's not a bad stitch. So it's a lot of playing around with the tension and the presser foot on this machine. And let's put it on maybe a medium weight fabric. Now, let's see what happens if we don't put our bobbin in there right. Let's just let this thread loose here. And see, I'm going to let that hang loose in there. And I'm not putting it in that little groove and doing all that stuff like I'm supposed to. So, let's see what happens. And I'm also not going to put it on this thing right here. And I've left it on medium weight. And I've only folded it over once. And remember, I didn't thread the bobbin right. It's between 3 and 4 on the tension, and it's between 4 and 6 on the end. So you can see it's not a real big boo-boo with this one, but you can see that it just is not stitching right. And there's a good chance that your stitches are going to come loose if you don't have that bobbin in there right. So let's fix it. Got the indent that goes in the bottom, and the dome shape goes in the top. You put it in that groove, and then you kind of put it behind that little doohickey right there. Technical terms. And then you want to, isn't that funny? It doesn't mess up when you want it to. I was sewing the other day and my bobbin wasn't in there quite right, and it was just screwing everything up. And I was tired and pissed. And okay, so here we go. This is what you want for a lightweight fabric like this. I'm going to put the fabric on lightweight. I'm going to turn the tension to around 4 for the tension on the top, and for the side I'm going to put it on around 4. And it's on 2.0 for the stitch length. I can't mess it up. I'm trying to mess up so I can show you what happens when you mess up, but it's not messing up. So, troubleshooting. Let's talk about that since I can't show it to you because it's not doing it. If you're sewing something and your bobbin is kind of knotting up back there, it's usually an indicator that the bobbin has maybe slipped off the wheel and it's not in that groove, or it's maybe too tight. The tension might be too tight. If it's loose and it just doesn't look sewn right when you flip it over and look at the bobbin thread and you see it's just like really loose, then there's probably something with the tension. And again, checking the bobbin, make sure you placed it in the bobbin casing right. So anyway, that is, hopefully I can edit this down to be a short enough video that it won't bore y'all to sleep. But if you have any other questions, I will try to answer them. And Margie is really way better seamstress than I am, a lot more experienced, and she had this machine for a lot of years before she gave it to me. So there may be questions that she can answer, so just, you know, post your question below. Just make sure when you post a question that you link it to Google, because if you don't, we can't reply to it. It locks your question, your comment, and nobody can reply specifically to that comment. So unless YouTube has changed something in the couple months that I've been on my break. So anyway, I hope that was helpful, and if it wasn't, I apologize. I'll be back shortly with a video tutorial. I'm just getting some things done for my Etsy shop and finishing up some projects, and then I will be back. So peace, guys and gals. See you later. Bye-bye.